Another edition of Final Feelings. It's Dean Legge and Ryan Curley. Matt DeBerry is not with us. He's out with technical difficulties. All right, Ryan, let's get right into this game. You've got Georgia and Oregon, the Dogs, 17.5-point favorites to win this game. I'm going to check some things as we go. Um, Dan Lanning and company will be in Atlanta by the time, maybe not by the time everybody's watching this, but soon thereafter. And they will have the heavy task of knocking off Georgia and Atlanta.
Yeah, that is a tough task. 17 and a half. I mean, the line isn't 17 and a half for no reason. Uh, they've had a short turnaround time to start your tenure at a program and get ready for week one, and your week one game happens to be against the defending champions that still have a lot of players from last year's team, and it's a very deep team for Georgia. So for Dan Lanning and company over there in Eugene, I think that's a really tough ask in your very first game as a head coach. I don't think they have enough guys. Just like long story short, I don't think they have enough guys on the outside. They certainly do have speed in the position groups, but I don't think they have the depth that Georgia has from a talent standpoint.
The line is actually going down slightly. You can get it at 16.5 if you want to out there. It's mainly at 17 right this second, which is, I mean, that's just a lot of points, man. And when you watch Oregon play, which you and I have, okay, who have you seen them play against?
Oh, I watched their spring game and I watched some of the Ohio State game. But I'm trying not to take too much from last year, just because I think
Well,
it's going to
I
be.
know.
I think it might just be too different.
Yeah, that's the thing that I may have made a mistake on, which is I've just watched a lot of Oregon from a season ago, and it's not that they're not good. I think they are good actually, but I think that the difference between them and Georgia right now is consistency, and I think this is a bad matchup for Oregon. That's what I think because with what Georgia does well offensively, Oregon's going to have to change. They are not spectacular, have not been spectacular in on offense. They've not been spectacular on defense. They're kind of middle of the road in both. Final feelings, again, our article is going to be down below. You really need to make this a part of your Thursday, Friday schedule is to go watch Final Feelings. But, one thing that I talk about in here, Ryan, is when you take a look at Oregon, there's a couple of challenges coming into this thing. They were number 50 last year on offense. They were 72 in total defense. They have some good. They have some good. Go ahead.
Georgia was top 10 in both. I mean,
See, that's the
they were top 10
difference.
in both, and they were one in one of those categories. So
Now, the quick thing that everyone's been talking about here a lot lately is, yeah, but the Ohio State game, which you watched. What happened in that game? And I think I know the answer to this. Why did Oregon win that game?
well, I think the simplest way to put it is Ohio State's defense just didn't show up to play.
Right.
I mean, and Oregon does have some of those playmakers back. Um, I don't want to compare it to that game. And there's going to be a different player under center, a different coach. But just besides that, I don't want to compare it to that game just because Georgia and Ohio State are different teams. I think that whatever you see out of Georgia's defense this year will be better than Ohio State's defense last year. I don't think it'll be that close either. So Oregon's not going in to face a defense like that. They might be experienced, but it doesn't mean that they're a slouch in certain areas in Georgia's position room. And I, you know, I don't know if it's a 100% Bo Nix, right? I mean, we talked a little bit yesterday. He's
Yeah.
coming off of what was kind of a severe injury, and I don't think anyone discusses that anymore. And he hasn't had success against Georgia. Now, maybe
No.
Dan Lanning's the perfect person to help him have success against Georgia, right? The defensive coordinator the last couple of years. So if there's somebody, but I think there's way too much has happened to Oregon in a short amount of time, and then Georgia gets thrown out in your face. I think it's a bad recipe for them.
Okay, so a season ago, Ohio State was ranked 59th in total defense. Oregon was ranked 72nd, um, which is, not ideal. And then when you look at scoring, Ohio State was actually a little bit better at 38th in scoring. So on defense, but they just ran up and down the field on Ohio State. And of course, that's what Michigan did to Ohio State. I can't remember the final score there of that game, but it was ugly. And we thought Georgia was getting ready to play Ohio State in the semifinal, and we thought that they would beat them, but we weren't just so it was 42-27 against Michigan. But when you look at and when you look at Oregon from a season ago, Ryan, and this is something that I did, and I do this all the time. Um, the caveat here is that Oregon of 21 is not going to be playing Georgia of 21. That game would probably not be super close. Oregon of 22 is playing Georgia of 22, and there are some things we do not know. I'm trying to teach my daughter algebra a little bit, and there are some variables. There are some X's going on
Mm,
here, right?
yeah.
But when you look at where the Ducks are with everything, nothing really jumps out. They're not that bad at running the ball. Then you get Georgia. I mean, like that's not fun. Um, so they're middle of the pack in a lot of stuff. They're not bad at all at turnover margin. They're not bad at third down conversion. That's because they're running pretty well. They're number 4 in the country in that last year. Just though getting into the weeds, that's what the article is down below. Make sure you're reading that. I mean, it is an important thing. It's right down below. It is at least 2,500 words because I wrote 1,800. Ryan, I wrote I wrote 1,800 words about this game
Why?
because
That's a
I
lot.
clearly have a
You
mental
have a lot to
problem.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, I had way too much watching them, but I
How
want to
much
point.
of that percent wise is actually about the Oregon game, you think?
Oh, way too much.
Oh, so a little
Way too
overboard.
much. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, did you know,
Okay.
Ryan Curley, that the Oregon Ducks a season ago gave up kickoff returns of 34, 36, 39, 43, 46, 53, 56, and 78. They gave up 8 explosive plays on kickoff returns, including twice, excuse me, 3 times against Utah. They were not that much worse than Utah. Like Utah was the
Okay.
better team. But Oregon did not play well. They were not consistent. When you watched them play UCLA, they kind of goofed around with UCLA much more than they should have. I mean, UCLA was not a great team a season ago, and the Ducks won that game 34-31. I also watched them play UW. They took control of that game in the fourth quarter. I don't like comparing with weather games, and that was a weather game, but they weren't great against UW either. They had a very good game against Ohio State, but that's like saying, like, and I write about this in Final Feelings, man. Their variance was huge last year. Like, their best win was beating Ohio State. Their worst loss was losing to Stanford. Do you know what Stanford did a season ago?
They had a losing season, right?
They were not good. They lost to Stanford in overtime. And Stanford a season ago was 3-9. 3-9. I remember, I'm not too old to remember how David Shaw used to lecture us about how guys from Stanford wouldn't go to Georgia because it was a lateral move or even downward. Whew. I mean, that wasn't good. Their win against UCLA showed that they can beat decent teams. I mean, UCLA was okay. They were not good. And then Notre Dame beat them 45. Excuse me, I got getting off topic here. But my point is with Oregon is the variance was pretty significant. I mean, I think their best win was Ohio State for sure. Their second best win, I'm gonna say it was UCLA, I think. But those 2 losses to Utah, I watched those games too, man. And I thought I was gonna watch Utah punching them in the face. That's not really what happened. They kind of got overwhelmed with mistakes in the special teams. And then when Oregon made plays with Sewell or Thibodeau, what does he say? I don't know how you pronounce his name. The guy that was really good. Whenever,
Thibodeau.
yeah, they got some players now, Flo, etc. But when like he made a pick six against Utah, they didn't come away with anything from it, man. And like anyway, I think we're talking a little bit too much like Oregon. I like Georgia a lot in this game. I think they cover. Matt thinks they cover. If it were not for the bugs that we're going to blame on the Georgia Tech engineers, we would have him on right now. But he likes them as well. What's your view of this thing?
Yeah, I think I think something that's consistent with the Ducks last year was they weren't really stopping anybody from scoring, and I think that this version of Georgia is a hyper offensive group. I really do. I've said it a few times, but I think that they're going to score a ton of points this year. I think you. I mean, I think you at least agree with me a little bit, but I think they're going to average in the 40s when it comes down to it. They just have too many playmakers on the edge, inside, everywhere, and the hearing the way that the players talk about. I don't want to get into Stetson drama, but he has
There's
apparently
no way.
gotten
There's no
better.
drama, right? I mean,
He
like
is
you.
a. There's always drama. There's always drama with the Georgia quarterbacks, Dean
Yes,
Legge.
I know that very well. Let them have
But
their drama.
I mean, there's it seems the belief is that he's gotten a lot, that not maybe not a lot better, but he's gotten better, and that's all you can really ask is just for improvements. I think they cover. I think Georgia covers. It's they're in their backyard. It's going to be a mostly Georgia crowd. I can't foresee Dan Lanning being have it. Maybe he's ready for the moment, but I don't see how he can have a team of ragtags transfers from everywhere. I mean, they've got a ton of
They
transfers,
do.
and Bo Nix beating the Dogs in Atlanta. It doesn't sound like something that's going to happen to me. I think I've got them covering.
Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION today. The other link down there is this book. We've got people buying it. Make sure you're getting it before I have to order it again, and that may be sooner than later. Pick up DAWGSTRUCTION. It's our 80-page commemorative look at the Dogs hardcover. Um, it's a really cool book. I will sign it for you, but you need to email me, dean@dogpost.com, after you order to let me know that. Don't wait around. I send the books out pretty quick. Um, they scored 31, 35, 41, 24, 24, 34, 52, 26, 38, 7, 38, 10, 32. And what I write in Final Feelings is one thing that sticks out about the Ducks, and one thing that sticks out is that the Ducks average 22.75 points on the road in league play. The only other thing that jumps out is that they were very up and down in scoring. A team really shouldn't have a range of games where they score between 7 and 52 points. You have to be more consistent than that. And, 52 points was against Colorado. They had 7 against Utah, 10 against Utah. I don't hate scoring 24 against Stanford and Cal. Um, you're not going to score 24 against Georgia and win. In fact, so Ryan, one other thing we talked about before we got canceled, and not by the woke mob. I'm sorry, I had to do that. So
The
woke
woke
mob,
mom.
the woke mob of internet of me not knowing what I'm doing. Um, the other thing that happened before before I goofed everything up. This is a total Jerry Leggy move here. Is writing stuff like this. They have allowed the Ducks at least 30 points last season. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, Ryan. Did I count that up right? 1, 2. No, excuse me, I did not count that up right. It was 6 times last year that the Ducks allowed 30 points. And they allowed them to, let me very quickly here, Stanford, UCLA, uh, Utah, Utah, Oklahoma. I will be so 5. I said 6. I will be the person that says very out loud, there's no shame in allowing 30 points to Oklahoma. They can score. Georgia has allowed 30 points or more 10 times in Kirby Smart's tenure. So unless things get changed pretty dramatically here, I don't like the margins for Oregon. I think if Georgia were playing Utah, this would be a much more fascinating game. And I feel like I'm talking too much, and we're talking too much about Oregon. I just don't think this is a great matchup for Oregon. I don't think it's impossible that they win. I just think it's a not great matchup. And now we can talk about Stetson if you want.
Oh no, no, we're good. We're good. It's
What
not
about
a good
Kenny?
matchup.
What
It's
about
not a
Kenny
good matchup.
McIntosh? What about this Georgia run game? One thing that you could do a season ago against Oregon was really run at their edges. They did not set the edge a season ago, and Utah exploited it over and over and over again. I thought Utah was going to run right at them. They ran to the left at them consistently off left tackle. I mean, it was bad.
I think Kenny McIntosh is in for a big season. But you're gonna see Kendall Milton, you're gonna see Dejon Edwards, you're gonna see Branson Robinson. I think you're gonna see all four of them. I don't know what their touch count's gonna end up being. I don't know how they're gonna split it up. We're gonna learn a lot about that on on Saturday. But Kenny McIntosh is their one. It seems, and he's the oldest guy in the group. He's the most versatile in the group. So I think that they're going to try to find ways to get the ball in his hands. He's apparently had an incredible camp, and in the
Yeah.
scrimmages, really explosive plays. You know, last year from your running backs, you didn't have that many explosive plays. James Cook popped a few big catches, and Kenny McIntosh, I believe, had one big run against Georgia Tech,
Yes.
but not a lot of explosion from the Georgia running backs last year. I think that there's definitely an emphasis on Georgia to have more explosive plays. That's something Kirby's
In,
talked about a
in the
lot
run game.
in the run game, and
Yeah.
I think the
Certainly in
run
the
game is
pass.
going to be open because of the way that they are going to be able to spread the ball out. That's why my confidence in this Georgia offense's ability to score comes in how dynamic it is and how I think that there's no shortage of ways that they can score. I think
Right.
that they can do pretty much anything, and I think they've been working on pretty much anything for the last 9 months. And there's so many guys. They can if someone gets tired, if Brock Bowers got tired, you could swap him out for someone like Eric Gilbert or Oscar Delp or Darnell. You know what I mean? Like there's so many of them, and they feel good about their top guys at receiver. AD Mitchell they've totally catered him to be a number one wide receiver. There's a lot of excitement about him. When we're when in the practice availabilities, the player that consistently every time I hear Kirby chirping at is AD Mitchell. He gets
Mhm.
extra coaching. And some of that's on special teams, and like we talked about how special teams matter the other day, that Georgia's stars will play on special teams.
Well, I don't think you want that if you're Oregon. I mean, this, the one thing that you think about in the grand scheme of things, pull back, 40,000 feet, the Kirby quote that is correct is, we're not preparing to beat anyone. We're preparing to beat everyone. And a season ago, they did. I mean, they beat every team they played a year ago. And, you know, that's not something that always happens in college football. We've had that a little bit lately, 18, 19, and 20, and 21, I guess. So maybe it has a lot lately, but we've had teams that have flaws that have won it. This Georgia team, I would not be floored if they win the national championship, but we will learn a ton about them in the first half of this game. If they are I do not expect I expect the defense to take a step back. I do not expect the defense to submit 20 points a game. Um, that's maybe I'm being naive. I don't know. I expect this offense to be efficient. You know, Stetson's a very good quarterback, but all quarterbacks can be inaccurate. That's the number one thing you don't want to be. I think he fought through when he had bad games. He had a bad game, like he was not accurate, I guess you could say, against Florida, and had one of his best throws of the season against the Gators. So, this is about competing on the every down basis and every moment basis. I think for Oregon too, there's another thing that I saw. Man, the middle of the field is very open again. Or Utah did exactly what it was supposed to do in every moment against Oregon in terms of scheme, in terms of exploiting it, and they executed. And had they executed the way Oregon did, the game probably would have been tight. Those games would have probably been tight. Oregon had an execution problem a season ago, and my skepticism about Dan's situation is that he can get this solved in a 9-month period of time. I think Dan Lanning is a great choice at Oregon. I don't think he's a great choice to win this game. That's all.
Yeah, no, I think they made I think it was a great hire. I think that he's someone that can do the things they need, especially on the recruiting trail. But it's too short amount of time. It's too short amount of time with that many things you have to figure out. Georgia just has less things they need to figure out, and they're more talented. And they have Kirby Smart and a staff that's mostly been together for at least a couple of years. And it's in Atlanta. There's just
Yeah.
you pile on one thing after another, and okay,
I
right in the
think
middle, right in the middle.
The Atlanta thing, you and I have been to the Dome. Well, you've only been there once with me.
With this job, yeah, I won't me.
Right. And when you go to that game and I'm going to say this, I think this is actually accurate. I think perhaps with the exception of Atlanta United, the Dome has no bigger home field advantage for any other team than Georgia. Because when the Falcons play there, it's not. I'm not digging at the Falcons. I don't care. But when the Dogs play there, it is a partisan crowd. Even when they played Alabama there, so um, I think too, man. A lot of Georgia folks are ready to get a win at the Dome because it's been a little bit of time before they really have had a very good win there, and this would qualify as a very good win.
Yeah, it would. What? It's SEC Championship 2017. Well, I guess they won the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, they
They won
won
the
the
Peach
Peach
Bowl.
Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
but I can't remember if I talked about this during the riding home that I thought we correctly recorded, but one Georgia official told me, and that this person, is paid by the university. They are certainly a Georgia insider. Said, we just got to get out of this dome to play Alabama, and they did, and they won the national championship. So, after a heartbreaking loss in 17 at the Dome, it wasn't as equally heartbreaking in 18, but it was heartbreaking. I mean, they lost in the last play of the game. They threw a ball into the end zone from the 30-something yard line, and they walked off the field, and there was no knee taken. So, um, they need to get a win there. They probably need to get a win there against Alabama, but I think you take wins over Alabama however you can get them. And when you're hoisting the national championship, that counts. What are you looking forward to most for this game?
Oh, just to get back into it in general, week one, it's
Hmm.
back. I'm excited. I think we're gonna do some. I think we're gonna do good things again this year for all the viewers. So, but this in the game in particular, I want to see how fast Georgia moves the ball down the field. I want to see how fast they. I want to know if it's going to be a quick hitting offense or
I
not.
mean, we're talking
I
Aaron
would.
Murray. Are we talking Aaron Murray fast in
Well,
2012?
yeah, yeah. I think that they have that in them. So I don't know. I don't. I'm curious about the pacing, and I'm curious. I'm very interested to watching the play calling pattern. There's just so many things they could do. I want to see what decisions are made when.
One thing that you talked about just there, it makes me think, and I have to go because I have to cook ribs for tonight. But um,
Oh,
yeah, um, what happens if Georgia comes out in a three tight end set off just immediately and says you can't substitute, and we are going to do whatever we want to do. We're going to flex Gilbert out, or we're going to flex Bowers out. We're running with one running back, three tight ends, and I mean, just like what are you going to do in that
you're not
scenario?
gonna win. You're not. I don't think Oregon can beat that. They do have fast guys in the middle. I know you said
Th-
when
They
you
have
watched last year
they
that there
have
was a
good
lot of
players in the middle. Yeah,
but you said it was open in the middle.
Yeah,
In
it
what
is.
I watched of this spring game, it was also open in the middle.
Yeah.
And there was an emphasis to get the ball down the field through the middle. It's not going to be the same way against Georgia. It won't be that easy.
And
It's not going to be that simple.
can the dogs rush the passer here? That's one thing.
That's a good question.
You talk about Bo
That's a good
Nix here.
question.
Now, I mean, this guy is not some idiot on a golf course. I mean, but Bo Nix, you don't want to get into like a decathlon with Bo Nix. Now, the good news is you're not in the Olympics; you're playing football, so that's problematic. But they better make sure they know what they're doing. And I know Kirby Smart, and I know how he is, and those guys will be completely prepared for Bo Nix and all his intricacies. And I think Oregon, this is a tough ask. You're talking about rolling a boulder up a hill, and that's gonna be really challenging for them. That's what I think. Your final
I
thoughts?
think it's I think it's 41-17 is what I got. I think Georgia's in the 40s, and I think Oregon's under 20, and I think they cover whatever the spread ends up being finalized as. I think it's too much to ask from for Lanning and those Ducks week 1. There's just too many things, man. I know it's college football and anything can happen,
Right.
and Oregon could beat Georgia, and we were wrong about a lot of things, and we have to take a step back and really look at it again. But Georgia's too good, and Oregon I don't think is not going to be put together enough.
Well, if Oregon beats the Dogs, that Oregon is a national championship contender. That's just all
There
there
you
is
go.
to it. I mean, so we'll just see, and I'm skeptical of that. We'll see you. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're reading Final Feelings down below.